But now, one of the things that happened to John Brown was hanged, was he not?
And so was Nat Turner.
We both were hanged. Tell me something about the hanging of John Brown.
Now, I mentioned this in segment 1. Stonewall, future Confederate General Stonewall Jackson and John Wilkes Booth, the man who assassinated Abraham Lincoln, President Abraham Lincoln, were both present at his execution. And many people don't know this, but John Wilkes Booth stole a Confederate uniform to gain admission to John Brown's execution. Now, I'm not exactly sure why he wanted to be there so badly that he had to steal a Confederate outfit, but basically, when you think about it, you can think about he wanted to see him die. He wanted to see somebody who cared about slavery die, perish.
And so with these two insurrections, the John Brown slave insurrection and the Emmett Till, and I think one of the final incidents of violence in the South has to do with the celebration of Dr. King's birthday. What about the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King, and how would you fit all of that into this violence that you've talked about?
Well, the assassination of Martin Luther King, he was shot and killed at the Lorraine Hotel while standing on his balcony, and right below him was Jesse Jackson, who was the first to notice that Martin Luther King perished. And he was murdered because he stood up for African American rights. He fought back against John Crow laws, Jim Crow.
Segregation.
And people didn't like that. So they decided to shoot him so it would all basically stop. Well, it hasn't. Then came the NAACP, and they became stronger. And then they took over that place. And, the NAACP represents Dr. King and his peaceful way of getting things over with, having rights for African Americans. Now, the Black Panthers, they fought with violence. And another thing that I think many people may know is that Tupac Shakur and his mother and grandmother were all a part of the Black Panther Society. And they fought for rights with anger. They did not fight in peaceful ways. The NAACP and Martin Luther King did. Now, the Black Panther Society represents Martin Luther King, and that's how that went along.
And so you've got all of this violence, and in the end, over the last minute that we have here, what would you say to young people in terms of all the things that you've said today about violence? How would you?
I would say stop gun violence. I mean, who is it helping? You killing somebody else isn't helping anybody. You're just creating more violence for the world.
And what would you say about the need for guns? Do you think that there's a real need for guns anywhere now?
Well, I'm not sure. Guns hurt people. Well, actually, I don't think there is a need for guns, really. I mean, now people say there is a need for guns, but what about protection? Now, you'd have to live in a perfect world to have no guns, no anything, no crime, but there's always going to be guns around, and no matter how much people try to stop it, it's up to today's generation to stop it.
And so you think that there's a real need on the part of people today to sort of come together and move against violence and in a real sense, as Dr. Martin Luther King said, to love one another. You think that there's a need for that today, and you stand as an advocate for that kind of understanding. Is that what you're telling me as we enter the last 30 seconds of this show today?
I do.
You believe that and that people should be warm and wonderful toward one another and move away from violence, gun violence.
Hug each other, hug your neighbor, love your neighbor, love everybody. What's the problem with that?
Okay, very good. Of course, Lana, let me thank you again for bringing by that unusual kind of information today. And also let me encourage our audience to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you and good morning.